Hi, welcome. This is a unit on perimeter and area. Uh, the perimeter is the distance around the edge of a shape. It is always measured in the units of length, like inches, feet, miles, meters, etc. The area is the region bounded by the shape or the space inside of a shape, and it is always in square units, square inches, meters squared, kilometers squared, miles squared, or square miles. You'll see it written both ways, and so on and so forth. But whatever, like a unit of length, but squared. All right, let's jump right into some of the shapes that we're going to see here. The rectangle. Um, it says the perimeter is equal to 2L plus 2W. Well, that comes from the length and the width. And a figure like a rectangle is generally considered to be longer than it is wide. So while you technically could switch them, usually we don't. We put the length on the longer side and the width on the shorter side. And so if this is the length, this is also the length, and this is also the width. And so if I put W plus L plus W plus L, you can rearrange those to read 2L plus 2W, and that's the perimeter or the distance around the figure. And the area is the length times the width, also just written as LW, because when you have two variables written next to each other, that means that they're being multiplied. So a square, now here it says the perimeter is equal to 4L. So the length of the side is always the same. So L plus L plus L is 4L. And it's sometimes we'll say L, sometimes we'll say S for side. And so it could have been or 4S. And same thing with the area. The length times the length, it's just like the length times the width, except for the length is the same as the width. And so you'd say just L times L, which would be L squared. Or like I said, S squared, the length of a side squared. Make sure that it looks like an S and not like a 5. Okay. Parallelogram. So parallelogram is like a rectangle, but the sides do not have to be at right angles to each other. But the opposite sides are congruent. So this side and this side will be the same, and this side and this side will be the same. And so if we're using this formula length and width, then this is the length, and this is a length, and this is a width, and this is a width. And that would give us the perimeter, so just like the rectangle. But the base times the height, again, often just written as BH, or base times height. The base is the length of whatever side is oriented down. Generally, you could twist it, and then one of these width sides would be the base. And the height is perpendicular to the base. So you need to know this distance here, and that would be the height. It's not the W, it's the height, the H. So perpendicular distance between the bases, and it would be perpendicular to both of them. Okay. Triangle. Now here it says A plus B plus C, and it's just like any of these figures, it's the sum of the lengths of the sides. So if we call this A and this B and this C, then it's A plus B plus C, regardless of what kind of a triangle it is. It's just the sum of the lengths of the three sides would be the perimeter. Okay, the area, however, is 1/2 BH, and once again, that's 1/2 the base times the height. And I'm gonna cancel this A, B, and C here for just a second and rename this as, just like up above in the parallelogram, this is the base, and the from the point of the triangle down to the base so that they are at right angles, which just means they are perpendicular. This would be the height. And so 1/2 the base times the height would be the area of a triangle. Just noting here that B and this symbol here means perpendicular. The base is perpendicular to the height. All right, circle. So the circle has a radius and a diameter, and the diameter is equal to 2 times the radius, or if you prefer, the radius is equal to the diameter divided by 2, or 1/2 the diameter. And we spell those like this, radius and diameter. So the circumference is equal to 2 times pi times the radius, or the pi times the diameter. And you can, in either of those work, if you're given the diameter, you can just take it times pi. If you're given the radius, you take 2 times pi times the radius. And those will both give you the circumference, which is the what we call the perimeter of a circle, the distance around the circle. So the area is pi r squared. So you square the radius, multiply it by pi. Keep in mind that this is pi times radius times the radius. The square does not apply to pi. It only applies to the radius. So you're taking r times r. All right, let's look at some examples here on the next page here. Example 1, find the perimeter and area of a rectangle with a length of 4 inches and a width of 6 inches. So once again, rectangle, all of the sides are at right angles to each other. And if this is 6 inches, then this is 6 inches. And if this is 4 inches, then this is 4 inches. And the perimeter is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width, which is 2 times, and they're calling the length 4. It doesn't really matter. 2 times 4 plus 2 times 6. Although, like I said, generally we would consider the length to be the longer part and the width to be the shorter part. We've done that opposite here, so my bad, excuse me. 2 times 4 then is 8, and 2 times 6 is 12. You have to multiply before you add, follow the order of operations. And then 8 plus 12 is 20. And so this would be 20 inches. The perimeter is equal to 20 inches. Now for the area, that's length times width. And so that would be 4 times 6, which would be 24 inches squared. Or you can write that out, 24 inches squared, or 24 square inches, but it's always in square units. So either of those answers would be fine. All right, next one. Find the perimeter and area of a square with a side length of 6 centimeters. So it's always good to draw a diagram in geometry. Draw your diagrams. Only takes a moment. And the side length is 6. It's 6 centimeters, which means this is 6, and this is 6, and this is 6, and they're all in centimeters. And since the perimeter is 4 times the length of a side, that's 4 times 6, and so that's 24 and it's 24 centimeters. Remember, the perimeter is always in linear units of length. So centimeters, inches, miles, whatever. Your perimeter is always going to be just in units of length. And then our area is equal to the side squared. And so that's 6 squared, and that gives us 36 centimeters squared, and that would be our area. All right, moving right along. Example 3, find the perimeter of the parallelogram. Okay, so if we know that this side is 12 from here to here, that means this up here is 12. And if this is 8, then this is 8. And if we're just looking for the perimeter, as we talked about above, is 2 times the width plus 2 times the length, or vice versa, 2 length times plus 2 width. It doesn't matter because you're just adding them. And so 2 times the width here would say is 2 times 8 plus 2 times the length, which would be 12. 2 times 8 is 16, plus 2 times 12 is 24. And then when I add those together, I get 40. And the unit is centimeters, so the perimeter is 40 centimeters. Make sure that you include your units whenever you can, whenever they're given. Make sure you include the units. All right, example 4. Find the perimeter and area of a triangle. All right, perimeter. The perimeter is the sum of the sides. So we've got 9 plus 5 plus 12. And 9 plus 5 would be 14. I think that's 26. So 26, and notice this time they're not given the units, and so we would just say that the perimeter is 26. You can say 26 units as opposed to units squared, and that's what we'll put for the area. So the area is equal to 1/2 the base times the height, and that's 1/2. The base is 12 times the height. Remember that the height is perpendicular to the base, so the height is 4. And when I do that arithmetic, 1/2 the base times the height, 1/2 of 12 is 6, and 6 times 4 is 24. So this would be 24. And once again, here I'm just going to put units squared, or square units there. Okay. So example 5, find the circumference and area of a circle with a diameter of 8 feet. So the circumference, you recall, is either 2 pi r or pi times the diameter. And the diameter is 8. So we just take 8 times pi. Now, this is the exact answer. So if they ask you to give you the exact answer, you leave it in terms of pi. But if I approximate, so if I get my calculator here and I type in 8 and then use the pi button and hit enter, I can say that that's approximately 25.13, let's say 25.13 feet. And this is approximate, right? So this is not the exact answer. If you want the exact answer, you leave it in terms of pi. but if a lot of times it's much more useful to us to have an approximation. So we do this. Approximately equal. All right, so there's our circumference, and now the area, and the area is equal to pi r squared. So remember that the radius is equal to the diameter divided by 2, and that's 8 divided by 2, or 4. So it's 4 feet in radius. And so we can then say that our area is 4, we'll say pi times 4 squared, that's pi r squared. And 4 times 4 is 16, so this is 16 pi. Again, that's the exact answer. But if I want to know what that is, I type it in my calculator. 16 pi, and that gives me approximately 50.27. 50.27 feet squared. Even for circles, the area is given in square units. Okay. That's it for this video. We'll come back for the next video and we'll talk about some irregular shapes.